always embarrassed by this kind of discussion because, for me, this is about doing what's right, and it's about doing what is necessary, and it's also about taking a page out of history. My concern is that where we are right now, history will judge us badly if we do not speak against the forces of evil.
Yes, we don't. You're right.
What are the forces of evil? The forces of evil are allowing the status quo, where privilege is continued to be privileged, and where children, through no fault of their own, are punished for being poor. That has never been acceptable. It should not be acceptable. And if we allow other people to define us, to chart our course of history, then they get to write the next chapter. There's a problem with that. Because we've always been told that history is written from the view of the victors. Right now in our country, we worship wealth. That is a problem. When you worship wealth, you ascribe to it characteristics it does not have. Money is neither good nor evil. It is money. How you use it. Do you use it for good? Do you use it for evil? But also, do you use it to change the world for the better? Or do you use it to impart your own narrow-minded view? That's the question. So we are in a crisis, one that's been manufactured.
Yes.
So the first crisis that's been manufactured is this crisis of underutilization.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Children did not disappear, right? They didn't disappear. So what we do is we present people with options that don't make sense. So how are we closing schools and yet opening schools? It's not logical. And while I understand these people are allergic to science, I had no idea they were also allergic to history and math. So what we have done at the Chicago Teachers Union is to change the focus of the way the union works. So 3 years ago, there was no organizing department. 3 years ago, there was no research department. Our research department has done some amazing things, and I have been asked to go over our latest piece, which is called The Black and White of Education in Chicago's Public Schools. You have a copy of it. I would love for you to take the time to read it. But what we concentrate on is class charters and chaos. One of the things that we've learned through history is that it is very easy to create and manufacture crises and then pretend to come in and to solve it.
Yeah.
But the people who are coming in to solve it aren't really coming in to solve it. For the people who are in crisis, they're coming in to solve it so that they become the beneficiaries.
Yes.
So the people who are extraordinarily wealthy, it's never enough for them. We have some real problems in Chicago. As I sat here and listened to Dr. King, I am still concerned that we have what amounts to educational apartheid in 2013.
Yes.
Where we have a highly segregated system. And we continue to ask, why are the resources not there? And you go a few miles in either direction around the city and you see something completely different. We have had school actions, closings, turnarounds, opening of charters, doing all kinds of things. Experiment after experiment after experiment. Did we not learn from Tuskegee? Whose children get experimented on?
Our children.
And is that okay?
No.
And what do we do?
Fight.
So the key is, where are we going to go? But if we want to know where we're going, we better have an understanding of where we've been and where we are. We have a dishonesty because right now there's a political agenda around education that has absolutely nothing to do with education.
That's right. Absolutely.
So the people that get to have the loudest voice are the people who know the least. We're changing that narrative. Slowly but surely, that narrative is changing. Because we have said, we are the education experts. We can help you if you want to listen to us. But if you want to push us aside and dismiss us, then we're not going to go quietly into that good night. I have serious problems when the Board of Education puts out a press release and says, we have 145,000 children in 2010 that are now no longer in the system. Now, what they did not say was, A, that was a census report, and it counted children from 0 to 19. I know we do good work in pre-K, but I don't think there are a lot of kids in the 0 to 3 that come to Chicago Public Schools, but they got counted. The other piece about that is, we have their own data from the Office of Accountability that said there's only been a 30,000 kid drop between 2010 and now. But why do we have to say that? Why can't the Board of Education say that? Why can't CPS tell the truth? And then CPS says on one hand, we have to rebuild and repair this damaged relationship we have with the community. Start by telling the truth. The beauty of Chicago is that this is not the only place this stuff is happening. So we have the ability to look at other districts and see what's going on there. The key is, listen to the terminology. When Mayor Daley took over the schools in 1995, he instilled a CEO. That already told us what the direction of schools were going to be. Business model. The business model does not work in education. The business model does not work in public spaces. We have to make a decision. Are public schools and is public education worth fighting for? And brothers and sisters, I would say it is.
That's right.
So once you get past the spin, here's my favorite part. Charter school. We have 20,000 on the waiting list. How many of you all heard that? We have 20,000 on the waiting list to get into the schools. So that's why we have to open up charters, because there's so many people waiting to get in. Once again, the waiting list is alive.
Thank you.
And how do we know that? During the strike, you all remember that. During the strike, the head of Illinois network of charter schools gets on TV and says, we've got 3,000 spaces. What happened to the big waiting list?
Right.
Why are you opening with 3,000 spaces? By the way, charter schools are highly underutilized.
Absolutely.
Anybody gonna close them? Not only that, study after study after study after study shows that charter schools are not quality schools. Some do a wonderful job. And for those we say, bravo. Lovely. Start peeling away how they do a wonderful job, and you start to see is that they're not really the same as our neighborhood schools. The charter schools with the same demographics as our neighborhood schools have the same results. So unfortunately, 17% do better. The rest either do the same or worse. We have got to stop equating charter with quality.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have to talk about who is doing the work. We cannot sustain a system where we have teachers and paraprofessionals and clinicians coming in and 2 years later they're gone. They're not there to make the relationships, to see how a family works over time so that they can bring more than just content, expertise into the system. The key is, how do we develop human beings? That is part of this. So it's not just, are we going to have you get a job? That's fine, that's training. Nobody's going to say no to that. But the other part is, how do we train the love of learning, which never leaves you? And last but not least, what do we do with the face of the teacher that does not look like the face of the child? What does that say to a child about how to get and obtain an education? So, finally, this study looks at the truth of what's going on in our city. I can guarantee you that as long as I'm president of the Chicago Teachers Union, our research will continue to expose the lies, expose the agenda, and change the narrative. I will end you with this. We already know who the winners and losers are. That's easily done by ranking and sorting. But I ask you to think a little deeper. Who made the rules to the game?
Okay.
But that's not enough. We need to go one further step. What are the stories the winners tell the losers to keep them playing the game? That's where we need. Brothers and sisters, thank you.